Not sure that went to the right place.
I did get a notice saying we're being live streamed.
Yep.
Cool. I thought that notice was for Terry, but it's on my computer.
Not sure that went to the right place.
Ah, bingo.
Okay, somebody got it. It's about 20 seconds delayed. All right, I need
I
to.
did get a notice saying we're being live streamed.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to turn mine off or it'll be pretty annoying. Okay. We'll come back here later. Looks like we have about 20 people on. No visitors or new members. So we can start with the activity reports. Got a nice big blank for our vice president. We don't have one. We're still looking for someone to step up and fulfill that role. The VP's primary responsibilities are organizing speakers and also our meeting venues, although that's been pretty static for quite some time. As to speakers, we are currently covered for the rest of this year. We have speakers lined up for October and November. And we have our Christmas party in December. Right now, we don't have anybody lined up for January. Now, if the COVID situation has improved, we may be able to bring Don Olson in January. He was originally signed up to speak with us tonight, but since the time that we set that up and tonight, the COVID situation in Austin, Central Texas, has deteriorated to the point where we didn't feel like it was responsible for us to hold an in-person meeting on the UT campus at this point. Don understood that. I said October didn't look good as well, and Don is planning to try and visit Germany in November, so he couldn't do that month either. So it looks like he will be one of our primary speakers coming up fairly early in 2022. Conditions warrant if they allow it. Okay. All right. So that's about it for the VP role. So Sean, I understand you need to leave early, so let's hear about communications.
Thanks, Terry. I did find the 2021-2022 budget on the Google Drive. I'll send you a link. The title says budget, but the title inside the document says proposed. So I'm not sure if it's exactly what you want, but I'll send it to you. The only thing I had to say about communications was that the fundraiser for the fleece jackets with the AAS logo has completed. So everyone who ordered one will actually get one. That's great. Thank you, everyone who contributed and who made donations, especially. I think they'll get shipped out in about 2 weeks. And it's always great to have an opportunity to give some money to something that's, it's not political, it's not anything except educating people on STEM subjects. I think that's, and educating students. I think that's a great cause. So thank you, everyone.
Also, Sean, it's not too late if you still want to get one of these jackets.
Sorry, yes, the fundraiser is open for another 2 days. So up until Monday night, you can order them.
Good. Now we can get them. Yeah.
So come January, you're going to want one of these.
We won't have to wait till January out here.
Yeah.
Thanks, Terry. That was all.
All right. Thanks, Sean. And anything to say about the AAS store?
The AAS store is still there, where it's mostly selling coffee cups and T-shirts and hats right now. And there's a link to that in the Sidereal Times and also in the website. So you're welcome to visit there as well.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Sean. Patrick, I don't believe joined tonight. So we'll move on to outreach. Joyce.
Well, we tried to have a star party at Pedernales Falls. If you've looked at the newsletter, I mentioned it and Terry mentioned it. It was cloudy and then the rains came, and so that didn't happen. We're looking at a much better situation for tomorrow night at Inks Lake. The forecast is for completely clear skies, and so anybody who wants to come out, feel free to do so. And then a couple more weeks we'll be at Pedernales, and it's just kind of alternating those two for a while. But we'll take it one at a time. And tomorrow night at Inks looks like it's going to be really good.
So thanks, Joyce. I don't know why, but my strangely associative brain, when you talked about the rains, I was thinking about Toto's song, Africa. Missed the rains down in Africa. Well, they all landed on Pedernales. That's where they went.
Yeah.
Yeah, in about 5 minutes. So I get my laptop back on the 16th, so I'll feel a lot better then. Okay. I don't think Domingo's on, and actually Domingo, who had been acting as member services, has decided to step down from that role. He is still going to be active in supporting member services, and particularly what we're doing out at Bad Wolf Ranch and the Loner Scope program. So I guess the main topic on member services is whether we are going to continue holding the private parties. Technically, we were due to have a party at Bad Wolf on the 4th, and I don't think that came off. I don't know. Alan, are you on? Did anybody ask to go out to Bad Wolf?
No, I'm on, but no, Domingo and I talked about that and didn't hear from anybody.
Okay.
As far as I know, nobody showed up.
Okay, so I'm not exactly sure. Joyce, do you remember what date he might have set for the next one?
October 9th.
October 9th. Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking we should try and go ahead and set something up there. If we want to try and restrict it to some degree, we can. Again, I think being outdoors and the members who would attend being able to spread out would be okay to go ahead and hold a members party. We just need to get a little advertising behind it, and I guess we'll go ahead and proceed working on that and see what we can do for the 9th.
But you know, they removed I think according to Domingo, they removed the porta potty though. I'm trying to find a substitute because they weren't servicing it.
Yeah,
I don't know how much, quite a bit.
That was a topic that we were going to bundle up down below, but we'll go ahead and talk about it a little bit.
Okay, I didn't mean to jump the gun on you there.
No problem. One of our biggest expenses has been that porta potty. It was about a $2,100 expense. They were charging a bit more than I thought we originally signed up for. And considering the use it got last year, that was money down the drain. We didn't stop them we should have given it back early last year.
Down the drain. That's poetic.
Yeah, totally unintentional. So we are looking at an alternative out there. Alan, I don't know if you want to speak to that right now. It will take some time to put something in place. But it's kind of moved to the top priority of what we're going to do at Bad Wolf for infrastructure wise.
Yeah, it's something that I had thought about for a while. I just haven't gotten around to it. And Domingo thinks it might be a good idea, is just to build one of your old-fashioned outhouses out there. There's 1,000 designs on the internet, from simple ones to fancy ones. And so we're trying to come up with something that'd be, fairly simple, something easy to build, but haven't come up with any particular design yet. But that's something we really would like to consider, considering the alternatives, which is we don't have a lot of alternatives now anyway.
Okay. So the likelihood is that we won't really have anything in place by the 9th of October. So we'll have to alert members to deal with that as, we'll
Well,
maybe,
Terry, can you rent one just for a month or two rather than a contract?
we can check into that. It might be possible.
Until you get something more permanent.
Yeah. We definitely want to deal with a different company if we can. I think the reason that was so high is that particular company was having to really go a long way out there to service it. So we might be able to find something local. Okay, chalk that up as one for member services ex officio committee to look at. So I will handle that, and since we don't have a member services lead at this point, but all right, we'll make announcements on that Star Party upcoming and see how that plays out. Any questions?
Hey, Terry, I think Clausen is located, their headquarters is located in Gerald, which might be close enough. Too Bad Wolf.
Okay.
That's something you guys might want to check for pricing.
Okay.
Clausen.
Yeah, you might drop me a note on that if you don't mind, Henry.
Sure, we'll do.
We'll follow up on it.
Okay.
Greg, equipment chair. What do we know?
It's been really quiet. I think Domingo did loan out a couple of scopes at Bad Wolf, I believe it was. But other than that, we haven't really had much anything coming in on the equipment. We're continuing to work out on Predinalis on the rollout observatory. Brian and I managed to get the TV hung on the wall and tested, and we've put up solar panels to charge the battery. From talking with Joyce, we may need to put in a second battery. Because apparently that one didn't hold for very long on the 28th when they were using it. But other than that,
We're also running some white light there at the end too.
Yeah. Let's see. John Alvis, the park supervisor, is out of town currently. He won't be back till Sunday. But there's been no movement on them acquiring more road base to finish out finish the pathway and all that. So I'll need to connect up with him Sunday to find out what the status on that is.
So your call for volunteers then is still just kind of pending?
Yeah, it's going to have to be on hold until they get the materials.
Okay. So we've already mentioned this a couple of times. I think we can just send out the notice that materials here. We're going to do it, and we can build an email blast out on for that to get the actual volunteers. Okay. All right. One thing I want to propose, Greg and Brian, you guys, I think, you got some shelving you want to put in, and I'm not sure what else before you feel like you're ready to receive telescopes out there.
I think the bookshelves are the last item.
Okay.
That and just cleaning it out.
Yeah.
Construction stuff goes out.
Since the 24-inch Spica Eyes is currently sitting in my astronomy trailer on Brian's back lot, I was thinking about pulling it out there tomorrow and leaving it on the site so that even if you guys aren't ready to move telescopes into the falling star, we could have the telescope out there for the next Paternalis public party, which is when, Joyce?
25th.
Yeah, 25th.
Yeah.
Terry, do you feel secure leaving your trailer out there?
I'll take the normal precautions, put a hitch lock on it. And I think if we let the park know that it's out there and what it's there for, it shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, sounds decent.
So my idea was just to park it relatively close to the observatory front or side or something. So I can talk to Steve about that.
We can probably park it door to door to the cargo doors.
Okay. That would work. Okay. So at least we'll have one of the scopes out there for following party. Okay. All right. So let's get a little bit of show and tell going here. So I've kind of moved, since we don't have a main presentation tonight, I thought we would work on a few things here and just kind of go through some content here. And then get down to the business discussion. So if those are some of you on the meeting that just don't want to stomach talking some details on business, you won't have to stay for that. So we'll start off. I think, Brian, you've got a What's Up in Astronomy segment.
There we go. Unmuted. Yes, sir. I do. I went through and found some interesting, nifty, neato new stuff going on. NASA has been posting a lot here lately, and there's something that somebody mentioned at my job, so I think I'm just going to start with that. I need to share a screen.
Okay, hang on just a second, Brian. We have actually 5 people in the waiting room.
Okay.
Somebody needs to help me watch that.
I'm keeping an eye out on the on the YouTube, but I don't know if you saw, I mentioned that it's on your channel and not the Austin Astro channel.
I was afraid of that.
If it
Okay.
makes a difference. There's a couple of people watching, but
Okay.
I want to mention that.
We're not really positioned to go and try and fix it right now, so it'll just be what it is. I'm sorry I didn't get it on the right channel.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
So we just let 5 people in. I'm sorry if you had to wait very long. We weren't quite watching the waiting room very closely. Do we have any new members that just came in? People are with us for the first time.
Yes, my name is Chris Webb. I'm with you for the first time.
Okay, welcome, Chris. Are you new to Austin or just to the club?
Well, I've been in the club for about 2 years now, but just the time has slipped away from me. So, yeah, so just starting to try and join more things and participate a little bit more.
Okay. Let me just preface by saying when somebody else.
Yes, I'm Dodie Reagan, and I'm new to the Austin Club also. I'm finishing up a term as president of the Dallas Club, TAS Dallas. And so we've moved to Austin. So I've joined the Austin Astronomical Society.
Yeah, I think we've met a few times at TSP.
Yes, we have. We have. It's good to see some familiar faces.
And I see you on Facebook.
Hi, Brian.
I thought your name was familiar. I was member of TAS in 2012 to 14.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Well, that's very comforting to me to see people that I've seen at TSP before and maybe El Dorado. Yes, thank you.
Okay, Dodie, I think it's fortuitous that this is your first night with us. I don't want to put a lot on you, but we are, after we have a couple of short presentations, our main speaker cancels. So this is not a normal meeting for us. We're going to be talking about some of the club's long-range goals and possible funding campaigns, what we want to do to meet those goals. And we could maybe use some insight from the president of another large club. So,
okay. Sure.
All right. Any waiting rooms clean? Brian, you can go ahead with What's Up in Astronomy.
Roger that. Okay, how do I do a share here?
Green arrow.
Okay, green arrow, 1 participant at a time. Select the window or screen. Let's see. All righty. Okay. Do you see my screen?
Nope, see Terry.
Hang on a second.
There you go.
Change the.
Now we see Brian.
Yep.
Do you see something about space and a big asteroid captured ahead of an Earth flyby?
Yep.
Awesomeness. All right, I'm going to take this set of headphones off and play.
Ryan, are you on mute?
We lost him.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, I hear you. Your screen share went away.
Okay. I don't know why my screen share went away. It says I'm sharing on Firefox. Nope. All righty. How about this?
Yes.
Okay.
Again, yep.
Yeah. Do you hear any music or anything playing in the background?
No.
Okay. See, that's why I pulled out my microphone deal so that that would hopefully play through. So they're playing background music. They're not talking about it, but this biggest asteroid to visit Earth is zooming by here in March 21st. That is not the one I was looking for. There is another one I was trying to find, and that son of a gun is coming in about 4 days. Now, it's not very big. Somebody mentioned it at work, and I went to looking for it, and for some reason, it's not really all over the news anywhere. But it should be here in about 4 or 5 days. And it will be passing just a bit outside of, I think it's 1 astronomical unit, somewhere in that range. So it'll be passing by us very, very closely from what I read. That was a few days ago. So if I can find something else on that. Yeah, they always talk about killer asteroids and nonsense like that. Instead, let's start with what NASA's got going on here. So what's up in astronomy? I was checking some of the latest launches and some of their ideas out. So much of what NASA launches is to help with what we have going on right here on the planet. I don't mean just gathering information of what's going on out there in terms of how to help farmers, how to help people in droughts, how to observe waters receding or rising, weather patterns, fires. A lot of fires are tracked, the ones that are out of control, specifically by a satellite, so we have the most up-to-date information. One of the things we've got going on is to improve the food security through the capacity building, just like it says here. You put the proper satellite up there, and you can keep a watch of what the weather's doing and all the things that I was just mentioning. So millions of people, they suffer from food insecurity around the globe. And with Earth observing satellites, they combine all that information. The NASA USAID server project is helping to try to reduce the number of people who can't get something to eat, i.e. famine. Food security, it's a consistent availability and affordability of food, kind of like the way that we're able to control it artificially. You can go to the grocery store. Being the basic human need that it is, it still remains elusive for a big chunk of the population on planet Earth. The United Nations 2021 State of Food Security and Nutrition in the World Report released in July says a grim picture of this reality. In 2020, nearly 1 in 3 people did not have enough to eat. And that was up by more than 300 million from the previous year. One of the big factors recently where we got a good picture of it, obviously, COVID. The pandemic continues to disrupt food systems the same way it does other supplies and electronics and supply chains on the global scale. At the heart of the problem and the solution are far more diverse than any single factor. It isn't just where it is. We've got a famine. We don't have a famine. Is there enough water? Is there not? It's more complicated than that. Even if you grow the food here, but people need it there, you have to figure the logistics to get it there. Well, if you can use predictive algorithms and more information regarding, well, here's the closer there than the there we have. There's another there that's much closer where we got to go. In Kenya, climate change, water shortages, and land degradation jeopardize crops and rangelands on a regular basis. In Southeast Asia, rising temperatures, increasingly variable weather, and low water levels along the Mekong River threaten livelihoods and food production on a regular basis. In Nepal, areas reliant on grain-fed agriculture, they're extremely susceptible to drought, and the phenomenon is becoming far more frequent as we have climate change. Okay, so SERVIR, S-E-R-V-I-R. Let me move your picture down here where you can see this. It's S-E-R-V-I-R. This is one of the people who's working on it. Agricultural Security Lead for SERVIR's Eastern and Southern Africa hub. Okay, what they're doing is paving the way to do exactly everything I just said. The goals of the United States Agency for International Development and NASA complement each other quite well. NASA has the unique advantage point of being able to see things from space, while USAID, working in over 100 companies, understands development and needs from the ground level. So if the two of them are in communication continuously, that feeds into the algorithm and helps them to distribute where, when, et cetera, et cetera. In addition to this expertise, SERVIR partners with leading regional organizations around the world meet specific needs. Our goal is very different than many traditional projects, said Dan Irwin, which is SERVIR's global program manager based on NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama. Rather than building something and expecting it to be adopted, we collaborated hand in hand with people in the countries where we work to identify the needs and implement a sustainable solution there with them. SERVIR works in more than 50 countries through 5 regional hubs. More than half of the working population in the region works in agriculture. So mainly on these small family-run farms, they're going to be susceptible to major changes in the weather. Most of these farms, they're not irrigated, making them especially vulnerable to changes due to the climate, warming, et cetera, et cetera. And with the right information, farmers and local governments can be proactive rather than reactive in the response to these changes. Here it comes, let's plan what we're going to do rather than here it is, now what are we going to do? In doing so, they can improve food security, and it's the information that Gundu and SERVIR aim to provide. The Regional Center for Mapping Resources for Development, RCMRD, in Kenya, which hosts SERVIR's Eastern and Southern Africa hubs, helps bridge data and science with decision makers to support processes that reduce risk. That makes Kenya kind of a good solid model to test this out on because they've got so many variations there. So if they can prove that this system works with NASA's assistance and everybody working together to provide information, then we should be able to implement this on a larger scale in the rest of the world. It is still in the testing phases. A little farther away from home, guess what we finally did?
Rolled a rock?
We didn't roll this rock. This rock's been laying there for a long time. We successfully cored a rock, and there's a hole in a rock. Now, that wouldn't be terribly exciting if it was in your backyard. However, one of the major things that this mission was supposed to do when Perseverance touched down was to, hang on a second, I'm gonna have to switch screens. I've got an off-screen device here that likes to blow up the images so big you can't use them, and they take over the screen. Okay, there we go. Perseverance was supposed to do a lot of things, not the least of which was to maintain images and safe transport for the helicopter, get the first images of this landing so they could actually see it from the top, from the bottom, from the sides and everything. It sent all the information as a relay to do the first flight, heavier than air flight on another planet. And now that it's on its own mission, it was supposed to core out sections of selected rocks and soil samples, bag and tag them, as it were, put them in airtight samples after doing some minimal analysis. They put them in, seal them up, and they put them in these little vials. They have a robot that's got several functions to it, 3 grand total robots on Perseverance rover that accomplishes this. After this one was cored, for instance, it was put in a little vial and it was handed to another robot, and then that robot distributed, and then the third robot puts it in storage. Eventually these will be dropped, and the plan is to send a rocket arrangement with the rover specially designed to pick these up, put them on a Mars Ascent Vehicle, or MAV, which will go up and very likely rendezvous with something orbiting, and then they will slingshot off the planet from there. That's the tentative plan. Things have not been put in concrete yet, but this is our first sample. So it's going to obtain some more imagery of the tube before completing the process. And there's that imagery. Looks like the back of a shotgun shell to me, but it has its label and it's sealed and bagged and tagged. So this rock core is now enclosed in that airtight titanium sample tube. Got to admit, that's pretty cool. First one of those we've ever done. Now that the core is there, they're going to continue picking up cores. I believe they have for somewhere in the neighborhood of between 14 and 21 grand total. It's going to cover quite a bit of time and space running around in the, crap, what's the name of that delta that it is in there? I was reading this earlier. Grego, what's the name of that delta that they're running around in? Can't find it. We know this area. It's right on the tip of my tongue. Any rate, this history of setting big, ambitious goals. I love this quote. And then accomplish them, and then reflecting our nation's commitment to discovery and innovation. Well, yeah, I wouldn't say ambitious, really, going to another planet. Yeah, that's really sticking it out there. Eventually, they want to drop humans on there. I wish them luck. That's going to be a good one. All righty. Perseverance has got 2 holes now invisible in this rock. They, of course, name the rocks. That way you've got some kind of an identification with the rocks. Okay, Richette is where the rover obtained its first core samples. Now, what I haven't seen written or printed anywhere is a plan. Well, we know we're going to pick up this kind of a rock, and then we know we're going to pick up this type of a ground sample, and then we know we're going to pick up this kind of a soil sample. I don't know. I'm just going to kind of wait and watch to see what it is that they pick up all grand total before it's settled out. But I'm kind of curious what it's going to look like and what they're going to show us, because they tend to show these things in the manufacturing stages and inside the clean room where they're installed. Because that looks like about the size of a shotgun shell right there. So they're not very big, and I think they're about 4 inches long. What retrieval system? You know, putting it on a rocket, flying it there, and then dropping the retrieval system down on a Mars descent vehicle, having a rover drive to where this is, pick it up, put it into a Mars ascent vehicle, and then returning it to Earth. I'm kind of curious what the robotics and stuff on that is going to look like. That's pretty cool stuff. Now, as for this asteroid here, I am going to go, because it is bugging me, and see if I can't find near Earth asteroid most recent, because it popped right up. Let's see if we got something. That's it, FO32. I believe that's the one. Closest point to Earth today, 2001 FO32, will be about 5.2 times the distance between Earth and the Moon. Still, they watch it really closely. That one is supposed to be not terribly big. It's something like 900 feet across. It's not the biggest one in the world, but if it hit us, that would not be fun. This is another one, USA Today. So this is where you pick these kind of things up, where you've got a non-space, you know, somebody, USA Today, CNN, somebody like that. Right. So it's not a space agency doing. So they'll put an artist's conception or something of this form and nature on here. Come on, get out of there. Potentially hazardous. They usually start with something inflammatory like that. Potentially hazardous. The size of the Space Needle. Run, buy bread and milk. Please panic. Massive asteroid is expected to come by 4.5 million miles on Tuesday.
What? I'll check your chin while I've got you here, and then we can deal with supper. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
Sounds like a good idea.
So Brian, did you mention whether that asteroid was observable or not with amateur equipment?
At 600 feet, I have not seen anything. When I was looking around online, I'm skimming over it right now. Nobody is saying that at this point. But when in doubt, one way to do it is to go and say, okay, let's find the name of this guy. Let's see if his name is on here. Come on, what's your name? Okay, this is 21KT1. Let's take that. Let's go find out.
Yes, you're a Newman.
Yeah, somebody needs to mute. Looks like David. There you go.
Can you see it? The reason why 2021 is news is that NASA estimates between 492 feet, which is 150 meters, and 1,000. Yeah, that's what they were saying. It wasn't observed until late May, just a week before its closest pass. Is it observable? That is not the answer I was looking for. Alrighty, well, we'll. Let's see. You need to watch it. All right. But don't worry too much. Asteroid is as long as the Golden Gate Bridge will zoom past us. So they're going to live stream it. How about them apples? Yeah, FO32. They're live streaming it. I don't. Okay, the image was taken remotely with the Elena, which is a plane wave 17-inch and some software. They, of course, software bisque mount, and S-Big. That's a pretty expensive camera. It's a robot unit as part of the virtual telescopic project. So they were able to pick it up this way. So if we knew where it was, I imagine any of us with a 25-inch telescope, for instance, would probably be able to make this one out.
Yeah.
You might want to try doing it through a video camera with a little bit of integration on it. So
I would probably give you more contrast, yes, but we have done it naked eye, remember?
yeah, I didn't get a magnitude on that though.
No, and I don't remember what the magnitude was. We had somebody tell us where it was, and it was actually farther away, but we tracked that thing for what, 2 hours out there with an 18-inch.
Yeah, if they're bright enough, you can do it.
All I got to do is stare at it long enough because they move very, very slowly. That's what I was doing as instructed, was to watch long enough to see. If I kept looking at the stars near it, give it a minute or two, do it again until I saw something. It wasn't something you could observe it moving. It's like watching the minute hand on a clock. You really have to slow down, slow your breath, get steady, and stare at it to physically see it move. Well, this was moving very similar to that. So you got to stare steady at it for about 30 seconds to get a notable movement with any of the stars around it. So that's pretty much what's going on, what's up in astronomy. Mostly it's the...
So Brian, can I jump in and add something?
Sure, go ahead. You want me to stop sharing and pass it over to you? Did you
Sure.
get something else?
Yeah.
All right, I've stopped my share. Go ahead and pick it up.
I'm surprised you didn't pick this one up yourself.
Well, when I was scanning at work, it may not have come up on the server that I was using. I missed things.
This is from space.com. Okay, why am I got this in the way?
Newly found mega comet?
Yes. Yeah, I actually saw this. This actually popped up on oh gosh, what was it? It was one of the just one of the news items on my browser the other day.
No, I didn't get that one.
This thing is if this was found completely by accident by two astronomers. One of them was looking for evidence of dark matter, and the other one was looking for trans-Newtonian objects. And what they found was a massive comet inbound from the Oort cloud.
What is a trans-Newtonian object?
Anything that orbits out past the orbit of
Neptunian.
Neptune. Yes, thank you.
Oh, trans-Neptunian objects.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, trans-Neptunian. Yes. They were expecting, most comets to be to exist out past Neptune. They actually found this one inbound at about 25 AU, which is about 5 AU closer than Neptune is. Neptune's right around 30. They found this one coming inbound at around 25 AU. It's the thing that's unusual about it is that even at 25 AU, it's already showing a cometary halo, which is really bizarre. They estimate the actual icy body to be somewhere between 62 and 124 miles across.
Big.
Yeah, which is, like they say, 10 times larger than anything they've ever seen before. And it won't see. I think the closest approach to the sun is going to be
In 2031, it's not going to be that close to us.
No. And in fact, its closest approach to the sun is actually, I think, just inside of Saturn's orbit, or just outside of Saturn's orbit. So it actually never comes that close to the sun, which is why it's so damn big. Is it's never been boiled away.
I kind of wonder how much brightness it's going to reflect, though, given its size.
That's a good question. I did not see in this article anything about what its magnitude is.
Cool. Here we go in the comments.
I saw it the other day, and it does say actually in here too that you'll still need a big telescope to see it.
It'll look pretty much like one of Saturn's moons, and not.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Its closest approach is 11 AU.
Yeah. It's out pretty far.
Still need a very large telescope to see it.
Here we go. Here's what I was looking for. A comment from Tony C. Perseverance is in Jezero crater. That's what was on the tip of my tongue. Jezero. That's where we're doing all our hole digging.
That's what you're trying to think of? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a delta down in there in Jezero crater, and that's what we wanted to look for in hopes of finding signs of life. It'd be really funny if we actually find our first sign of life on something like a comet.
Yeah. So anyway, I saw this pop up the other day. I thought it was kind of interesting that it's a very, very unusual comet, given its massive size and the fact that even at 25 AU, it's already got a halo.
Yeah, I'm wondering if maybe it's got a bit more water or ice or something on it that's highly reflective and highly evaporative.
Yeah, I was going to say could be actually methane ice or something like that, because that would evaporate faster than the water would. At 25 AU, I would expect it to be water. I would not expect water to sublimate very easily at 25 AU, but methane probably would, on the other hand. Oh, anyway, that was.
Okay, you got anything else on the plate there, Brian?
Nothing special, just covering the basics here. I've really got to get this other machine that has my reading portion stuff under better control, because it really messes things up and you can't do anything with that image anymore. That'd make it a lot easier. But yeah, that's what's up in astronomy. NASA's got stuff going, and we're going to try to use NASA to help keep us fed a little better.
Okay, thanks, Brian. So
Sure thing.
We'll change gears for a minute and move on to looking at observing highlights. Give me a minute to take the screen back. Screen 2 and share and come up with. Okay, so we used to have a segment we call Constellation of the Month, and I'd kind of like to get back to something like that. This is what I'm going to do tonight is just some observing highlights that are based off of the targets that Brian Cuthbertson selected for us in the Sidereal Times. You guys can see my screen. Are you guys seeing my screen?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So Brian picked out, he always throws some targets out here, and he's got an easy one, a medium one, and a hard one. And so what we're going to look for tonight is a cluster in the easy category, and then another open cluster in Sagittarius, NGC 6520, and then NGC 6804 rated hard is planetary nebula. Actually, there are two planetaries. They're right next to each other. So we'll take a look at how you can go about finding these guys. I'll bring up Stellarium here. And we're set for time pretty close to where we are right now. And we're taking a look at the south because these objects that Brian have are all kind of centered around to the left, to the right of Altair, or below Altair. But this is what our evening sky is looking like tonight, actually tomorrow night. We still have Jupiter and Saturn prominent and quite a bit up at sunset or an hour after. Venus is just setting right about now. We've got a thin crescent moon, and for the star party, it'll be a little bit fatter moon, but I think we still should get some good skies. Milky Way here in the center, and if you can't quite make out your constellations, we'll put some lines in here. So to find these objects, we basically want to orient south and then work our way back up the Milky Way towards Altair to find what we're looking for. So if we take a look at Brian's description here for the first one, IC 4756, extreme north of Serpens Caudia, between Aquila to the east and Ophiuchus to the west. Not a well-known cluster, not as bright as M11, the wild duck cluster, but still a nice cluster to go after. It's a good binocular object, about 1,300 light years away and 600 million years old. And we happen to be moving in that direction. So we're around in 100 millennia. Let's see if it gets any brighter. Let Brian know if his mailbox still works. Okay. So we'll just go back to Stellarium and just basically ask to find it. We'll do a Control F and we could put it in. Well, it's actually right here for us. Okay. And let me quickly put in a little constellation art here so you can see the constellations even better. So we're right here with Aquila the Eagle, and we're between Aquila and Ophiuchus, the serpent barrier. He's got his snake in two pieces. We've got Serpens Caudia is the tail and the Serpens Caput is the head. And there's a lot of cool things over here, not so many over here, even though it's pretty close to the Milky Way. But let's zoom in on this cluster a little bit and see what we start. Oops, lost it already. Okay. Control find, go back to it. No, we didn't. Control find.
I think you're still on it, Terry.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we are. Okay. Thanks, Greg. The first thing I noticed zooming in here is that there's another cluster right beside it. That's another NGC cluster. I think it's 3388 maybe. So the first thing I notice is when I see that, I'm going to want to go look at this one as well. But where we are again is the tail of Serpens Caput is this particular star here. If we get in a little bit, it's got a name, Alia. That cluster's starting to look pretty good. You can tell it's really big. It's a binocular object, and that other one looks pretty good as well. That one's got a nice little S-shaped pattern going in it, so I'd be curious to see that. And again, where we are in relationship to Altair is right up here, okay? And if we put a telerad on the object, well, put the object over there. So it is even with Alia and about a telerad and a half to the west of that, I believe. Okay. All right, let's take a look at that cluster online here and see what we're getting ourselves in for. Okay, so this is the cluster, IC 4756, several representations of it. Nice open one. Here is the 6833 was the other cluster that we were talking about. So this one, very open. I don't know exactly how to categorize that right now, but typical view, I kind of like this one. Okay, pretty nice field there. Go back on that or over again. And let's scoot over and look at the other one over. Oops, went too far. I may have messed up and lost. Oh, here it is. 6623. All right, just confused myself. All right. Let's go back. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to the next one. Pretty interesting cluster here. This is NGC 6520 is in a very thick part of the Sagittarius star cloud, so it's going to have a ton of stars behind it. In fact, it's kind of hard to make a cluster out in front of that, but one cool thing about this is that it is next door to Barnard 86, which is also known as the ink spot. So if we go into Stellarium here, we're going to find that it's kind of in a isolated area. Let's get the art out of there. So I'll do a control find here. Okay, so if I were looking for this, I would take the tip of the spout of the teapot and kind of make a right triangle with the star that connects it to the teapot. Right triangle about a Tellerad's width away. And
you ain't gonna be a musician.
we land on that. In Stellarium, all we can tell is we've got Milky Way in the background. It doesn't have an image captured here. So that is the cluster. It lists a B number here, but I don't think that's a Bok globule. So let's go and see what it looks like in a real image. That would be
because it wasn't good.
Okay, here we have several images of this. So I particularly like this one. You've got the cluster of bright blue stars against all of the really small stars in the Milky Way background. And here is the B76, B96, I forget, Barnard 86. Okay. And a little zoomed out, you can see here the cluster is very tiny with a pretty good sized ink spot beside it. So really the ink spot is probably easier to find than the cluster in this case. But if we go in and take a closer look at it, so I always like looking for things that give you two for the money, and to have a cluster and a dark nebula beside themselves like that is pretty cool. Even though that's a very small cluster, it's going to be a little bit hard to distinguish, but look in the photographs how much blue light's coming off of those stars, young set of stars. And think about how thick that dust must be to obscure all of these stars behind it, how it reddens them around the edges and until they just fade out. So visually that would look like, pretty much a hole in the Milky Way right there next to this star cluster. So sounds like a pretty interesting target to go for. Okay, then our last one is the NGC 6804 and 6803, two planetary nebulas. They're a pair. They're just about 4.5 degrees west of Altair. They're only about 50 minutes apart, so they would fit together inside an eyepiece that shows you a 1 degree field pretty well. 6804 is pretty easy to see. 6803 is going to appear stellar unless you have a very large telescope. That's actually the one he's giving the hard rating to, I think, is the 6403. So 6804, about a minute in diameter, 13th magnitude central star. You should be able to see a 10-inch scope. In a 12-inch scope, it's still a minute in diameter, And you can see how it fades into the center, fades from the central star to the sky. The 6803 is a few points of magnitude brighter, but much smaller, with a diameter of only 6 arc seconds. So while the first one is bigger than Jupiter, this one is more like looking at Neptune. So you can expect that in a 10-inch scope, it's only going to be stellar, and you get a 12-inch scope, you'll start seeing something of a disk that resembles a planet like Neptune. So if we take a look at these now, I believe, okay, this was a pretty good one to zoom in on, is you've got both planetaries here. That's going to go to, is it? Let's go. Let's see what that is.
So stellar meaning it just looks like a little star and not the actual
Like a star.
object.
Yeah. So if you're looking in this particular image, you can see this one has structure in it, and this one, which is brighter, is just kind of blown out, not structured, looking bigger than a star. So you can see some more structure in this one on 6803, but this is with a long exposure. The star is very much centered. Let's take a look at, is that the one I was on? Nope. Yep, same one. This one looked interesting. So this is showing you from the wide angle perspective, there are a lot of background stars. So unless you really get zoomed in on this, you're just going to see a couple of bluish stars in the center of a very big field here. Okay. So you need to find your location there and then get in on it pretty tight. I like this one. You can definitely tell that 6804 is a planetary with a couple of ring structures, and 6803 is concentrated light. It's actually showing diffraction spikes here. So much smaller. You're really going to have to crank up the power and get in there to get a good view of it. This one's showing quite a bit of structure on 6804. Okay. Now let's go over to Stellarium and see how to get there. And we'll back out again. So this one took us down to the teapot spout. We need to kind of go back up for the last one here, and we'll do a control find and look for 6804. Okay, and this one is, if you put your Tellerad on Altair and the star above it, Terrazed, then it is about this half-degree field. If you actually draw a line through Altair, through the center of your Telrad, and go out another half-degree field here, you'll be in the area. So just moving over there. And I think if we zoom in on this, it doesn't have images for these particular planetaries either. So you can see I've got Stellarium loaded up with all the stars, and it's still not showing that big background of Milky Way stars like we saw. So there goes somebody's satellite.
Awesome.
Okay, but pretty easy area to find. I mean, you get your Tellerad on Altair and Terrazed and scooch over, and you should be able to locate those guys. Any questions about finding these?
So those are the names up there of there's 2 different names for that nebula.
Yeah, popular names here, Incredible Shrinking Nebula and Snowball Nebula. There's probably a story behind that shrinking nebula, probably has to do with maybe using your averted vision to see it, that it would appear to change size, maybe if you were, and let's see what he says about, we can see the details about 6803 real quick. So barely moved, but this one, no creative names for this one. So he's rather going to be, a small object, not showing you a whole lot of detail. Okay, but it's pretty cool to get 2 planetaries together. Anybody else know offhand of where you can see 2 planetaries in one field? There probably are several out there. It might be a good thing to try and research sometime. Anybody got a question of anything they've been trying to find that they've had trouble with? We could maybe give it a shot here. Okay. And we'll move on. And I just had one other thing I wanted to kind of show, or maybe a couple of things before we get into the discussion here. I wanted to basically look at a couple of our popular Facebook sites. So we have our Austin Astronomical site, and we also have Austin Astrophotographers. This is an image that I posted on our site a couple of days ago. Very, very saturated image of the central Milky Way and the Rho Ophiuchi area. So we blow them up a little bit here. So the processing that this guy used really emphasized the HA areas, and blue stars are emphasized as well, as long as some nebulosity there. Here's Rho Ophiuchi with his blue shield, and Antares with his orange. And you can see the fingers of nebulosity that move over to the Milky Way. So you guys familiar with the pony in the Milky Way? Let me scroll up and we'll come back to this. The pony. I'll show you some samples of the pony, and then we'll come back to this one.
I'm having trouble seeing the constellation there, but
it is because it's not a constellation, it's just a shape, and it's because it's so detailed here. It's become abstract.
okay.
Let's take a look at some images that Ed LaBelle, who's been on a road trip for about 45 days. He's on his way home, but he got stuck in New Mexico at this park that has a bunch of old-timey setups here, and he's taking pictures of the Milky Way against it. His Milky Way doesn't get too dark, but I think this is the pony in his shot right here. So you got a body and a head and two legs, and you can actually make out four legs if you go deeper here. But
yeah, I can see it. It's kind of like what the Aboriginals do. Some of the things that they pictured, like the emu, are in fact the absence of light
Right.
or dark areas.
It's actually, yeah, it's also kind of reminiscent of cave art. So here he is again, the nice old tractor.
What constellation is it close to?
The pony is right across from the Rho Ophiuchi area. So let's go back to that high resolution one here again. And the hindquarters of the pony are also called the Pipe Nebula.
Mm-hmm.
Very dark spot there. So that's like the darkest spot in that part of the Milky Way. And his body is here. He has a foreleg here, a foreleg here. That, if it's a hind leg, is in a funny position, but then that's a pretty straight and backward hind leg on your side. But he's almost, like I said, just almost so detailed that he becomes very abstract. And in fact, I actually noticed another horse in here. So if you think of that one as a horse, down here we have a body. This might be more elk-like. He's got some spindly legs coming down here, and he's got a head up here with some antlers or ears as well. So his neck's kind of thrown back, and his nose is in the air. So I've never seen that one. Probably doesn't show up at all unless you've got an extremely deep image there. But I don't know. My brain likes to put these things into other images here. An example of that is several people have done the Pelican and North America Nebula here. This is Rob Pettingill's North America Nebula. Here's the Gulf of Mexico is the most, the feature that really makes it look a little bit like North America. Looks like a little bit of global warming has drowned a little bit of Florida, but the East Coast is still there. And offshore in the Pacific is the Pelican Nebula here. So you got a stubby body here, stubby wings here, his head's back here, and his big beak is down here. And he may have an eye there. Okay. Now here's another one of Ed's. This is an image that Jack Estes put up from his new EV scope. So Jack got this about a month ago. This is a scope that's been out for a little over a year, but it's been upgraded to a Model 2. And this is, to my mind, the most tightly integrated turnkey astrophotography platform out there. There's also this Stellina. I don't know as much about it, but it's this one is based off of a little bit larger than a 4-inch reflector, and it doesn't have a diagonal. It has a flat area where the sensor sits, so it's operating at I think f4. The Stellina is based off an 80 millimeter refractor, I think, design. But what this one does is basically live stacking. The telescope you do not need to worry about target acquisition or guiding. You basically, and there's, if you look at a typical astrophotography rig, there are cables running all over the place because you got to connect up, 2 cameras, filter wheels, focusers, several other doodads to make an astrophotography rig work, and all of this on a big gem mount. This thing, basically the telescope is the tube, the telescope tube. You mount it on the tripod. There's not a second cable to hook up anywhere. You turn it on. Wherever it's pointed, if there's stars there that it can see, it's not clouded out, it will plate solve it and know exactly where it is. And then from that point on, all you have to do is select targets off a menu, and it goes to them with very high precision, plate solves its way there, and tracks very well. Pretty phenomenal accuracy there. The photographic capabilities are a little bit limited with a single design there. I don't think most of the money went into the camera. It went into other things on this design. But it's a serviceable camera. This is an image of M33, which is, the second large galaxy in the local group, up there about 14 degrees away from Andromeda, about maybe a third the size of Andromeda in the sky. And if you look at that in a large telescope, you'll see a lot of this white haze, but not with that kind of detail. The telescope does live stacking, so that after you've been sitting on the target for 2 to 3 minutes, you're going to start seeing a lot more detail in it, and the detail gets better and better the longer you let it sit there on the target. This one, I think he did left it on for 30 minutes and did a little bit of post-processing on it. But I've seen an M33 that looks like that in 25 and 30-inch class telescopes, but it's not quite that detailed. But I've also seen M33 in other 4-inch class telescopes with very expensive cameras and a lot of many hours of integration, and that would be an unbelievably sharp picture of it. So this is, I kind of classify this as like doing Polaroid photography on the sky. Pretty good for what it does.
I've been wondering why his particular photos with that telescope have been so striking when I've seen them on Facebook, but they do seem unusually good.
Another feature of this is that it has a built-in Wi-Fi network. Wow. So once you turn it on and it sets up its Wi-Fi, you can connect up to 9 devices to it. So if you're sitting there with your cell phone, you can log into its Wi-Fi. You need to download their app first. You've got a tablet, you can connect that to the Wi-Fi and just watch it on whatever you have. So we're going to try, and we have a new club member who just bought one of these, and I offered to help him shake it down, but I said, I'll help you shake it out, but I need you to show up at this star party and let's try it out there.
Nice.
So bring your cell phone, go to the Unistellar go to your cell phone app store, either Android or Windows, and find Unistellar EV Scope and download the app. And if you've got that, then you can come by this scope and log in and watch the pictures develop.
You mean any of us can?
Yeah, all you need is the app on your phone, and it'll
Wow.
start 9 at a time. But yeah, so if you're planning to be at the star party tomorrow, I'll try and get that link sent out on the chat maybe before we're done here.
Awesome.
Terry,
Yeah.
here's something of note for the star party tomorrow, just to be aware for those of you planetary enthusiasts. Okay, as it sits right now, we're about 8:45, starting to get pretty decent dark out there. The sun has gone down, Mars has gone down over the horizon. Mercury is right on the horizon, so 30 minutes ago or thereabouts, it'd be just above the horizon with the sun fairly well shielded by the Earth, followed by Venus, which of course you know it's the evening star at this point. And then, of course, we've got our sliver of a moon. And as we arc across the sky, we've got Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter almost equidistant from each other, with Neptune trailing Jupiter at about a distance and a half. We've got quite a few planets up right after the sun goes down, all observable. I mean, you're going to need a big telescope to see Pluto, but that's all up in the sky shortly after sundown.
Wow.
And they're all spread out fairly even.
I have not seen Mercury yet. I would love to see that.
Mercury is a good one to see. I always did it first thing in the morning with a telescope. That way, even though the sun was coming up, I didn't have to put any kind of filter on. I could just pick it up right at sunrise because the sun was too weak just as it broke the horizon. And of course, you have to get like it is now, where it's got a nice spread. It's on an orbit that's wide from the sun relative to us.
Cool.
Okay, this is what it's going to look like. If you're still watching me, I've got Stellarium up, and this is at 11 minutes after 8 tomorrow. Still kind of twilight, but Mercury will be about that high above the horizon, and you can get its relative brightness. Venus, Moon, and Saturn and Jupiter, and I believe Neptune is still in this area. What else did you have? Pluto is in Sagittarius, right?
Pluto is up there ahead of Saturn, and the distance from Saturn to Jupiter, if you span over just a little bit more. Okay, we're Saturn and Jupiter. Okay, Pluto is to the right of that, about the same distance that Jupiter is from Saturn. Now, I know it's not showing up on here for whatever reason. It should be labeling it. It's not considered a planet. That's probably why.
Uranus is up too.
Yes, it is.
I was out at my
Neptune is
observatory.
up, and Uranus will be up in about an hour.
I was at my observatory in Alpine this past few days, got back a couple of days ago, and Friday night I had the best seeing I've had out there in my experience. And I was looking at Saturn rock solid at about 350 times.
Right.
And so it was,
Okay,
it was really a great view.
About 2,300. Yeah, somewhere around 2,300 Uranus will have broken the horizon, and you'll have a pretty good shot at it. It's a little ways out there behind Neptune. Neptune I have seen in a scope many times.
One of the programmers that was in our lab where I work sends me a picture one day, and he's just messing around at home. He wasn't pulling a very big vacuum at all, but he put together an RF match and everything.
There, I muted him.
Okay, I'm zooming out from Pluto here. It's a 15th magnitude object, so good way to get a feel for what Pluto looks like is go to Neptune, and Neptune's moon Triton is always within 18 seconds of Neptune, never far away from Neptune. It's the same size as Pluto and a little bit brighter. And when you see how dim that is, you'll see that going after Pluto as an individual target is pretty
ambitious.
Yeah, and it's not going to reveal very much. Okay.
I've never been able to confirm it. That's part of the thing that bugged me, is I was never able to get.
Yeah, it takes a couple of nights to verify which dot is moving there, because there'll be several 15th magnitude dots in there probably.
But Neptune will look pretty good. Give that about another hour, and that'll be high enough in the sky. It's bright blue.
Okay. Just real quick, here's another pelican that's a deeper exposure here than Rob Pettingill's. And notice the processing for the colors is totally different. He's not emphasizing the HA. And I wanted to look at Austin astrophotographer site real quick. So here's Rob's again with actually a little more processing. Here is Anis Abdul. This is the pony that shows up a little better, except there's a thin cloud covering his head. There's the pony, and the see he's taking a step with 1 foot here. Wizard Nebula, always a good one. This is also the pelican. It's oriented a little bit different, but it's zoomed in closer. You can start seeing filaments inside the clouds there. And these stars that I use for the pelican's eyes kind of starting to look evil now for your pelican is morphing. Elephant trunk. Here's another North American in the pelican. Apparently these are well placed for grabbing the data right now. This is an interesting one. You might not have known that there's a lot of HA fields surrounding the Andromeda Nebula. But if you filter for that and emphasize it and take a very deep exposure, you can see that the galaxy is actually almost buried or behind this thin nebulosity dust or HA excitable stuff in our galaxy.
You mean, is that hydrogen alpha? Is that what you mean? What is that?
Yeah. So let's see what he says about it. I guess that's about it. So this has 30 hours of integration with a hydrogen alpha filter, 10 hours of luminance, and 6 hours, just 6 hours of regular red RGB.
Wow.
So that's an extreme example if you push something, but this kind of stuff is all over the sky and we never see it. We look right through it in most cases.
I was wondering if you could take a hydrogen alpha filter like you would use, an astrophotographer would be the one to use it. Is it something you can look through visually on a large enough telescope? And
you
use that
can
filter with the light.
You can, but you're not really, unless you're gathering, most of this stuff is still very, very faint hydrogen alpha. So unless you're in the big stellar complexes, the nebula complexes, the stuff that's just kind of scattered out in space is really faint. This is a great shot of Pickering's triangle, which is part of the Veil Nebula. And here's a shot of the Eastern Veil, excuse me, which I call the Dragon or Scooby-Doo. Very interesting processing that he's done here in the colors and emphasizing the cloud structure. There's a dark nebula snaking around, a very saturated moon. A Trifid Nebula. Here's that pony again. It's the same picture. Still got that cloud in front of the pony's face. Lion Nebula, one I'm not familiar with. It. Anis is striking out. This is Anis's new rig at Stellar Skies. Just got a brand new mount. I forget the name of it, but it's a high dollar mount. So expect he's going to be getting some really good pictures. And here's another pelican, different color processing. Okay, I guess that's enough of our tour here. We're sitting at 9 o'clock. I did want to spend some time discussing some of the things that we want to try and get accomplished in the club here. That's not really a very useful thing here. I started drawing up a PowerPoint and organizing some things, but I kind of did not do this early enough and kind of ran out of steam. Just to talk a little bit of background, I guess, we did our budget work in a little bit late this year. It needs to be done by August, and we were kind of working into it into August. So if you look at us over the years, especially if you look at the years while we were out at COE, All of our operating expenses were easily covered by pretty much by what we had coming in from dues, and we kept a bank balance of around 35K. When we left COE, things began to change a little bit. So we decided to partner with some of the state parks for public outreach. And we ended up spending money to put some infrastructure at the state park. So we've got the Falling Star Observatory now at Pedernales. And our spending has gone up and our bank account has gone down. Yet we still want to do some more infrastructure improvements at Bad Wolf and possibly some others. There are equipment purchases that we'd like to make. We're thinking about setting up some beginning astrophotography rigs, for example, and we can, even if you do inexpensive astrophotography rigs with equipment that we've got on hand, you still need one. The cameras themselves are fairly expensive. So I think we were looking at about $1,700 for an introductory kind of astrophotography rig. There's other equipment that we'd like to get as well. So it's beginning to look like we want to do a capital campaign at some point. And that can take a lot of forms. One form is to basically keep it within the club. And we put together a package about what we want to do with additional capital. And we go out and ask the members for it, members and close friends, or we get leads on people that might want to contribute. And then it can go all the way up to, aggressively seeking donations or grants from other institutions, even the government, which is a lot harder to do. And I don't know that we have anybody with the skill sets in the club to do that. So at this point, we might be limited to what we can get out of a capital campaign among the members. I think before we want to go out and ask for money, though, we need a pretty clear picture of what we want to spend it on. And that we have some ideas, but they're not necessarily set in stone here. And there are probably some different priorities that could be set, or the timing of it or something. Another thing that I'm thinking about is that, well, a lot of the money would probably initially go to infrastructure at Bad Wolf Ranch. So I don't know, some of us have a vision of kind of turning Bad Wolf Ranch into another COE-like observing field, which could cost a little bit of a good chunk of change. I mean, especially if we want to put an observatory out there. It wouldn't necessarily need to be an observatory the size we had at COE, but if we wanted to put a 25-inch scope in an observatory, for example, would need a fairly substantial one out there. And that's a pretty good chunk of change. But even if you take that out of the picture, we still need additional storage out there for equipment and tools. We need electrification. We want to electrify various areas out there. We've got to deal with the toilet facilities out there. That'll definitely take something. Whether we want to do something about having a water supply out there, probably short of drilling a well, which is pretty expensive, what we can do with portable potable water. Anybody else have other things on the top of their head that we want to do at Bad Wolf? Okay. Those are some of the main considerations. And I have, before we even go down that road, though, I've got a little bit of a reservation about are we settling on Bad Wolf as what we want to be for our, quote, COE replacement? I mean, is it possible we could build this up and it's a nice place. It's not a a great place, or it's not a, maybe it's not going to have stuff to. They're never going to be a hotel out there. The people can cool their heels in while they're doing their observing. So given what our ambitions are for developing it, I would hate to get all that work done and then find out that it doesn't get used very much. Maybe because it's too hard to get too far away. So I'm thinking again about surveying the club membership to find out how the club members feel about certain aspects of this. What they think about Bad Wolf. Would they rather us find something closer in, which has a lot of challenges, but it might be possible. And other things that we might want to spend money on, astrophotography, supporting that kind of training and activity could be expensive. Do we really know if there's the need for that, the desire for that? Is it if you build it, they will come kind of thing? Say the same thing about Bad Wolf there. So I feel like it's time to put another survey out in front of the club. We have done that in the past. It's probably been 5 or 6 years since we did a survey, though. I don't think we've done one. We were still pretty well entrenched at COE the last time we did a survey. Okay. And it talks also about, things like member services, what programs we want member services to do. Same for outreach. How far do we want to reach out? Things like that. So,
Say, Terry?
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to consider there are new houses being put up out there. We have neighbors coming in. Now, you got to consider those are not small lots. The smallest lots are 10 acres, so the houses are not really close together. I'm not sure how much light we're going to get from them. I was thinking we need some sort of a campaign we can send out to the association out there to inform people of dark sky protocols and let them know how they can have lighting that would not pollute the sky. But that's something that has to be taken into consideration, I would think. I don't know if you've been out there recently. There's a couple of new houses that are down the road from us, across the road. I haven't noticed any light pollution from them though.
Yeah, we looked at those going up kind of nervously. They're not real close, but they're definitely in view there. We didn't see anything from them at the last star party out there, but I don't know that necessarily that they were completed or anybody was home. But yeah, that's a concern. But you got the larger concern. Any place in Central Texas around Austin, are you going to find a place that's not going to get developed?
Well, we do have an association out there. In one of the association meetings, I mentioned, astronomy and dark skies, and everybody's really all enthusiastic about astronomy and dark skies. So I think we might get a lot of people, most if not all people, on board to try to keep it dark out there, because that's one of the reasons people move out there, because they like the dark skies at night. They look at everything. So it may not be an issue. This is something we have to.
I agree, Alan. We definitely need to work on that and promote it to that association out there.
Yeah, we do have a online newspaper. It doesn't come out very often. It's not like it's real organized, but it's something that we can email out to everybody out there and at least let them know how they can set up lighting that's conducive to astronomy or stargazing. Now, I think pretty much everybody's probably gonna be on board with that, but it's something that we need to maybe pull together and start getting ready to get that out to everybody as more and more houses are going out there. I mean, saying a lot of houses, we're talking about 3 or 4 houses. It's not a lot, but
Yeah.
it's out there. I mean,
One thing we can probably do is hook up our IDA liaison and maybe get some materials for them to post on that newsletter.
yeah, if we could do something like that, that'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah. And I want to get, step up on this before it becomes an issue. Don't want to have to talk to people after they put up lighting and say, could you change it or could you turn it off while we're having a star party? We want to, be proactive on this.
Okay. All right. So, Dodie, I said I wasn't going to put you on the spot, but I would like to ask you if there's anything you could talk about how the Dallas Club has done fundraising over the years or recently.
Well, I guess the last big fundraising that we did was last year and the year before, where we raised about $32,000 for a new bunkhouse at our Atoka, Oklahoma dark site. We just have the one dark site there. So Atoka is about an hour and a half north of Dallas. A little bit of work to get to, but we had a crumbling bunkhouse there. So we have built a new bunkhouse and we just did some more fundraising and purchased all the bunks and some tables and chairs. So I think we can sleep 16 as soon as those bunks come in. We really raised that just from member donations. That's what we did. Several months, not really that long, but there was a big interest in getting a new bunkhouse up there. I guess it's far enough away from Dallas that, when you go, you don't want to come driving back to Dallas at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, if you can help it at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably the same for some of our club members that are situated on the south side of Austin to go to this Bad Wolf and other side of Lampasas is quite a drive to get home. Yeah. So basically, you just expressed to the members the need for the bunkhouse and solicited donations, or
that's exactly what we did.
Okay.
And we have a few members who, they would give $1,000, $3,000, $5,000. And then we had a lot of $50, $100, $200 donations. It all kind of added up.
How big is the club there?
We have a total of like 760 members. So 501 or so of those are primary members, and then the rest are family members.
Okay.
And our dues are, I think they're $50 a year for the primary member, and then very little for the secondary family members. It might be $4 or $5 for a family member. The bulk of our expense is maintaining Atoka. So mowing it, killing bugs. We had a big problem with feral hogs came through last December. And I mean, they tore up the field. So we had to spend some money on that. And we do have some kind of aging buildings. We have what we call the world-class outhouse, which is it's an outhouse with a building around it.
Okay.
We had a member give us a sizable donation, about $25,000 a couple of years ago. So we have some funds. We have that in reserves in addition to what we normally have that we can use for things like a compost toilet.
Okay.
We've done the research on that to figure out, okay, here are 3 or 4 compost toilets that would serve the purpose, inexpensive to run, cost $1,000 to $3,000 to buy. We're far enough north that freezing in the winter is a problem. We have to turn off the water in the winter, and we don't have plumbing. We just have water.
Okay. Is it well water or?
No, it's water. We have a water bill.
So it's like city water or some.
Yeah, we're in the county. We're in Atoka County. What we don't have is a septic tank, and septic tanks are kind of costly. So that's why we don't have a real facility like you would find, say, at a state park or 3RF or a rest stop, because we've not spent the money to put in a septic tank.
Okay. But you guys have gotten along for quite a while, it sounds like, with the outhouse.
We have that thing's been there quite a few years.
Okay. All right, Alan, it might not be such a wacky idea after all.
Well, Terry, on another note, I don't know if Domingo mentioned it. I do have a water tank that was donated by a good friend of ours. That it's a 300-gallon one. I was going to set that up out there, hopefully sometime in the next few weeks or so.
Okay.
Now, it's going to be non-potable water.
Yep.
But it'll be used. You can use it and you can maybe set up a little, like a camper shower and a sink or something. People clean up or wash up or just use it for cleaning their pots and pans or whatever.
Okay. All right. That'll help. So one thing we were talking about also was the probably looking at raising our dues, which have been the same for close to 2 decades, I think. And Joyce, I know you circulated some material about a survey of some of the clubs and what they'd done with their dues.
Yeah, I just sent that to you, Terry, but it could, I can send it out to others too. So, and Dodie was right there. Dallas is $50 plus, I think it was $4 for each individual family member. The lowest one that I came across was San Antonio Sidewalk Astronomers, and there was $20. So we were kind of at ours, which was $25 for an individual. We were kind of in the middle of the range. Well, actually, maybe on the lower middle end of the part of the range of dues of just these four or five clubs in Texas, which is all I looked at this point.
Okay. Yeah, we'd kind of initially tossed out the idea of about a $40 membership, which I didn't see many of the clubs other than Dallas were at that level or higher. So
right.
And I will say, I think our club members are very sensitive to any increases, even, and which I really don't understand, because if you use Atoka at all, I mean, that is such a deal. It just, not to mention we have special interest groups for astrophotography and observing that are, to me, worth a lot.
Yeah, you're probably like us in that we have sort of, I don't want to call them factions, but we partition into people that are really into observing and want to go out and observe. And we have some that are more armchair astronomers that are sort of in the club for presentations and stuff that we give. Some just are in for the social aspect of it, and they're not necessarily observers that much as well either. So kind of depends, on to see value out of your observing site. That's not always from everybody in your club, I guess is what I'm saying. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. If I can just throw in a thing, the Dallas clubs $50 a year is less than $1 a week. It's not really a huge amount of money when you think about it.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a great value for what you
Yeah,
get out of these kind of dues. Yeah.
There was one of the clubs that I looked at today. Their dues, I believe, were 36, but if you wanted to be a sustaining member, you paid $50 a year. So basically you were getting your membership and then donating $14. So that's one way to get donations. Another one that I've thought about would be, there's a bunch of things that I donate $5-10 a month, and I never even think about it. It comes on my credit card or out of my bank account. I never even think about it. But that would be maybe a painless way to get some extra money from some people who would be willing to do that.
How many of your members use your dark sites?
It's kind of hard to say since we've transitioned away from our Canyon of the Eagles dark site and haven't had a solid replacement for that. And then we've had COVID. So we don't have data unless you probably go back about 4 years now. But it was not uncommon to have 100, 120 people out at COE.
Wow.
Well, the last party we had, I guess the first one we had in a long time, there was about 30, 40 people out there.
Yeah, that was it was probably closer to 50, but it was inflated with the UT postgrad postdoc who brought 2 classes of students with him.
Yeah, he said he brought about 20 people.
About 20 people came from him.
Yeah, so he must have had a good maybe 30 members then.
Yeah,
it's not too bad, I'm sure.
Is that, I'm new to the area, is that close in? Is that convenient?
No, it is. First of all, some background on COE, which is at the top of Lake Buchanan. I live in North Austin, and it's an hour and 20-minute drive from North Austin. This new site is north of Lampasas, about 12 miles. So the distance wise, it's about the same. It takes me a little longer to drive because you've got to go through Lampasas, which has a lot of lights.
Yeah.
And when you're within about 3 miles of the site, you get off the highway and you've got some cleachy roads that you can't really drive very fast on. So it's nice and isolated, but yeah, it's a little harder to get into than COE was for us. But your site is how far north of Dallas?
Well, we were in North Dallas, but still Dallas, and it was an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Right at 100 miles north
Yeah.
of University of UTD, where we met. The last 6 or 8 miles of that is dirt roads.
Yeah. Okay. Are they well maintained?
It depended, when the county would come through and throw down some gravel, it was okay. But after a good rain, it could be pretty rough.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's about the same out there. Yeah, if you know where Leander is, it's about 60 miles north of Leander. Takes me a little over an hour to get out there.
Yeah, I would say our average person going out to COE was at least an hour and a half as well, though. Probably a little longer from the south side of Austin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know for Domingo, it's certainly a good drive.
Okay.
Well, we also lease pads, observing pads at Atoka.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a bunch of those. They're $50 a year. I think we probably take in $1,200 to $1,400 a year on leases.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's something. And then we do the Amazon Smile and a couple of other things like that I can't think of what they are, but those bring in a little bit of money. We have a couple of members who just make a monthly donation
Mhm.
Dodie, do you have, does the Toka side have any spaces for RVs or anything like that?
No, we don't have hookups, Jason. We've talked about that, and I think it would be fairly easy for us to do.
Yeah.
We
Well,
do we bring a small trailer,
sure.
not like what you have.
Yeah, well, and I've noticed the one time I've been to Bad Wolf is there's no way I could get my trailer anywhere in there.
Yeah.
So that's unless you had a very small rig, you couldn't get in Bad Wolf, I don't believe.
Is this Bad Wolf we're looking at here?
No, I can show you that in a minute. I just got my October astronomy, and there's an article on it here. This is the Tucson Astronomical Association. And this is a site that they have developed. It's actually 100 miles from Tucson. Bortle 1 skies, 5,400 feet up. And they are also, they have long-term leases on these 10 pads. These are 16 by 16 pads for certain members. And then short-term leases are not, or these may trade out. These other pads are for other members. They are also talking about 17 members that want to build their own roll-offs or other observatories out there. Their next phase, they're going to put in an education center and a dormitory. They have a 40-inch Dob, star structure Dob that is in one of these two roll-offs. The circular pad is a 27-foot pad for a 25-inch obsession. And they have a 9-inch folded refractor someplace. But what they did is they had a core of 4 members who found the land, and they bought 40 acres and are donating the middle 15 acres to the club. So I believe that's this square here is that 15 acres. And then they have all of these other 15-acre lots around it, so sort of as a buffer zone. And it is out in the middle of nowhere. The closest town is Tombstone. So you got Benson and Tombstone down here someplace, and this is right off of this 181 here, close to this large park. But Tucson is 100 miles further down on I-10.
And Tucson's pretty dark for a city.
Yeah, it is too. So it surprised me that they would go that far for a dark sky site. Apparently they've got running water. They've got restrooms and showers out there already. So it's a pretty good setup for them. But anyway, a long article in this month's astronomy on how they built it. So some pretty good lessons for anybody that wants to try something like that. Okay. It's getting kind of late. I'm not sure how much more we can do productively, but what I've told the EC is I want to get a set of questions together for a survey, and we'll start an email chain on that and start working on that, and we'll circulate the survey around maybe a little more widely, and when we think it's ready, then we'll go ahead and put it out to the membership. We're also, a lot of things have been tossed out as some cost saving measures. I'm not sure that we're going to necessarily do anything, but we may look at a little bit of everything. We've got one guy who's pretty vehemently pointing out we could save $2,000 a year if we drop the AL. Not sure how that would go over with very many people, but he makes some interesting arguments. Okay. Anybody sitting out there in the general audience that has any questions or comments they want to make on what we're trying to do here?
There are some comments in the chat.
Okay.
Several comments.
Okay. Back to St. Stephen's. Yeah, we definitely want to get back out there too.
Hey, Terry, can you hear
Yes.
me?
Yes,
This is Felix or Glenn Cooper. One of the reasons I joined this group is I wanted to learn astrophotography, and I have not made very much progress in that direction. And I think if the group had a way of teaching some classes and charge for it, I think there's a lot of people that would do that, and the money goes to the club. I was prepared to take that 250, or I don't even know how much it was going to cost, that class that was offered earlier, but they wanted me to get some extra gear, and I just kind of wasn't ready for that. I wanted to use what I had and not do the ASI, which I'm now prepared to do, because it seems like that's really an easy way to do it, and that's probably why they were offering.
Yeah, I think if we were to do classes, we would probably base it around using the ASI Pro, because it does simplify things quite a bit. And it's not, compared to the cost of a camera, it's a pretty cheap piece of equipment.
Yeah. But I felt like I had what I needed. All I needed was some direction and getting the I was trying to use the sequence generator, and it was just sort of blowing me up. I couldn't handle all of that. So I've just been really stuck and ready. I'm about ready to just give it up. But I think there's a lot of people out there that want to learn how to do this, and that would be a way of really generating some money for the club.
Okay. First a comment about the classes that we organized from Jan. I think she was kind of new to this line of business too, and trying to figure it out as they went along. It was it had some organization problems and a lot of bad luck with the weather. And I think we still have some guys that are hanging out that haven't gotten everything they expected to get out of the class yet. I think they're still waiting to have a processing class, for instance, which got us to thinking that we have so many astrophotographers associated with the club. If we can find those who want to be members or who might be willing to do some teaching, that we wanted to try and set up some beginning astrophotography and even invest in beginner level equipment there and teach off of that. So we're working on that program. It's kind of moving pretty slowly. Have you contacted anybody on the Austin Astrophotographers Forum, Felix?
No, I haven't. And I really wasn't aware of that. I don't know. I guess I just haven't had. It just doesn't seem like the avenue is really open, and maybe I'm not aggressive enough on pursuing what it is I'm after. But you mentioned stuff tonight which I was just really unfamiliar with. So I don't know. I don't know what I need to do, or the club needs to make it more accessible. It goes a month, and I don't talk to anybody about the club or anything, or astronomy, or except for this little meeting here, or going out to the star parties. And at the star parties, I pretty much just end up helping out, but I haven't learned that much.
Yeah.
Terry?
Yes.
You let me share my screen?
Sure.
Okay. This is the Atoka site on Google Earth. So you can see they've got
Looks
they've
like a
got-
large microchip. It's very well organized.
Doesn't look like any of mine, but so this is their like warming hut with you've got a
That's the
Jody,
one,
that's what, a 16-inch?
16-inch mead SCT.
Yeah, okay. These are all what,
Those
three or 4 foot pads, I think?
Yeah, they're 4 foot and we don't charge for those. Those are just users open to all members. First come,
Right.
first served.
And then all of these are observatories for members, correct?
Most of these are just leafed pads. We have a club roll off there on that first row with the larger come down south a little bit. Yeah, right there. We have a club roll off there. A lot of that stuff, a lot of those structures are no longer there.
Right. Yeah, this is an old photograph.
Yeah, we have
I know for example, that one is gone, right? The
Yes.
round one?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
gone. Farther up the field up north, we have a nice new roll off that's owned by a member and Larry Alman. And then we have a little dome right sort of where your cursor is, a little bit north of there.
I think right there, isn't it?
Yeah, it used to be owned by Max Corno and it's now owned by Randall Dean. Things like that. So yeah, and then our new bunkhouse is back behind that building with the dome, just to the northeast of that.
Right in here?
Go
Or
on south, just right.
So it's right in this open area here?
Kind of just runs parallel to the dome building.
Oh, okay. Over in here. All right.
In there.
Right.
And
And
then
I
those,
think this is your famous outhouse, right?
the outhouse is up northeast of there, up in the trees, that little building.
Oh, this one here.
Yeah, that one that you were on is the picnic pavilion.
Mm-hmm.
We have a grill, cooking area, outdoor barbecue. And then that building just right below you is the tool shed.
Tool shed there. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It's obviously it's been a while since I was there, but
Good memory. No, good memory. So yeah, and then to the right down there at the bottom of your screen is the Lone Star Observatory, which is a privately owned observatory.
And that's like a 24-inch, isn't it?
It's big. I can't tell you exactly what it is. But yeah, they have a big
Nice sized dome, especially if it's got a 24-inch in it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember. I've never been in it. I heard it was like a 24-inch, I think.
You got a nice layer of trees insulating you from low level light anyway.
Yeah.
It's Bortle 3. So pretty good.
It'd be better than that if it wasn't for that damn casino.
That and the casino, they built that new hotel and it really has not caused any additional problems.
Yeah.
In fact, since COVID began, I think it's darker up there. So, yeah. The problem with Atoka is the dew.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that's because you got this
Yeah.
pond right across the street.
Yep, that's right. That is a definite factor. And, you're just not that far from a lot of water. So,
Yeah.
What is TOCA? What does that mean? That acronym?
Atoka is just the nearest town.
Oh,
we're in Atoka County.
Yeah. So the actual town of Atoka is
I don't go there.
Up there somewhere. There it is. No, that's not it.
I don't know what that is.
There it is. There's Atoka. So
We're yeah.
So you're a ways away from the actual town.
Yeah, it's pretty remote.
Yeah. And now I've lost it again.
Well, the Houston Club has a pretty good site too, but they don't publish where it is. I have not been able to find it on Google Earth. It's
we don't publish where ours is.
Yeah, TAS doesn't publish it either. I've been there. That's the only reason I could find it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we guard that very well because that's our security. You know, we have a gate at the front coming off that that road, and you know, you want to be protected when you're up there.
Yeah.
We have Amazon's chief of security has a little observatory at Stellar Skies, and he calls it security through obscurity.
Well, you just need to get on Amazon's list of do not show on satellite, right?
Yeah, I guess you could do that. Okay.
I didn't know you could do that. That's cool.
Well, you notice that none of their large facilities are shown on satellites. Same thing with Google. You will never find a Google data center on Google Earth.
So what do they do? Just gray out a large area, or?
I think they clip in old photos of the area, so it just looks undeveloped.
Okay.
There's a big one in Hood River, Oregon, and if you look at Hood River, Oregon, you will not find the Google data center.
Okay. Okay, guys, I think we lost part of our crowd here. I don't really have.
There's some other suggestions, Terry, just want to mention farther up in the chats about fundraising. Somebody said something about GoFundMe and then mentioned a community impact initiative, dark sky designation. There's a link in the chat.
Yeah, we get several of those. I think people that are interested in their own kind of local dark sky initiatives.
Okay. I didn't know if that had anything to do with.
Yeah. Some people are trying to advertise them with star parties and things like that, and they ask us to help out. Usually it's in the Dripping Springs area. So Lake Travis, Westlake, they may be too far gone to help. I don't know.
Cool. Okay. Didn't want to miss anything.
Okay. Well, a couple of people don't mind a $50 membership fee. That's nice to know too. Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
So, Jamie, could I ask you to just capture the whole chat text, do a Control A and a Control C, and
is that how you do it? Yeah.
appendix for the notes, please?
Yes. Control A. Oh.
Control A selects.
Copy. Okay.
And then Control Copy.
And then I copy it right in the notes I've been taking. Awesome.
Okay.
And there we go. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
That worked.
Okay. Any last comments, guys, before we wrap up?
No.
All right. Well, it was good to see everybody there, and nice to meet you again, Dodie. And
Thank you. It's good to see you all. I enjoyed the meeting a great deal.
okay, we'll do it again second Friday of October. Same